Hello everybody, John Hemlock here to talk a little bit about killing Horrdon. So what I'm going to do is walk you through this fight from a tank perspective as we did it the other night when we killed him. On this fight we did not have a paladin tank, so we will be swapping tanks at every door. For this particular attempt, I am lucky enough to get to start with the boss. There's not an awful lot to be said about tanking Horrdon other than you just want to put your best, DPS moves on him. You want to get out a double swipe like you see me do there. And the other thing you want to do is right after a double swipe, you want to make sure that you've got some of your active mitigation ready to use. In my case, generally what I'd like to have is I like to have enough rage for an immediate shield block because he will melee you, triple puncture you, and then melee you again in short order. So if you can block some of that damage, and in the case of shield block, if it's up, you'll block 30% of all of that damage at least without a critical block. That's a good thing. So that's what you'll see me try to do is basically I'll try to pool rage when he's just kind of regularly attacking me. If I've got enough rage for it, I'll use shield block here. If I don't, I will wait for the double swipe, and then immediately after the double swipe, and in fact it happens right here, double swipe's almost over, bam, shield block, and he doesn't hurt me too bad when I do that. Also using Victory Rush there when it procs. Very nice heal. This is kind of an added bonus. And then once he charges the door, Turin, our other tank, has to go get the boss, and so what I need to do is go gather up the adds. In this case, they were pretty much already dead, so there's not much left for me to do here other than fill up my rage bar, do a little damage. I'm watching the Omen there. You can see if you were looking at Omen, I'm very high in threat, so I got to be a little careful about that because I've got a ton of vengeance and Turin doesn't have much, so I'm trying to fill up my rage bar, not pull aggro, and get ready for the adds to come out of the next door. I mentioned it in the thread, if you read it, about the good spacing on Horrdon, and you can really see it here on this door. The job that Turin does keeping Horrdon a long ways away from the door. So this is a Bloodlord. I'm going to pick him up. They hit pretty hard, and then I'm going to back him up to this spot. And right about where I'm standing is what I call the happy place, because it's a place where I can run and grab that first Venom Priest, like you just see right there, and all the DPS stays gathered up. And so when I go grab this other Bloodlord, I'm going to take him right back where I was. And you'll see that Venom Priest drops right on top of me, which is what I want. I can heroically whip across the room, get the other one, and then I head right back to the happy place. One Venom Priest here gets away from me a little bit, but he comes back here after an interrupt. And it is more important to get these Bloodlords than it is to stay on the Venom Priests, because the Bloodlords melee for a ton, the Venom Priests do not. So then once the Dinomancer's down, you just kind of want to keep everything gathered together and work your way towards the next door. Now here Turin is going to have to come get these adds, and I'm going to tank the boss, so I just kind of sit and wait, and sure enough there comes Turin and he gets him, so I taunt the boss here. He turns around and now he's on me, so now my job is to drag him to the other door and keep him as far away from it as I can while still being in healing range for the healers. He does not like to move very well, as you can see. So now Turin's in charge of picking up all the adds, so all I really care about here is, like I talked about before, kind of pooling rage, so when he does a double swipe, I've got shield barrier up, or whatever your active mitigation may happen to be, to help mitigate some of that damage from the melee triple puncture melee attack he does right afterwards. And my health stays pretty high there, so I probably had Probably had shield block up. Now he will charge the raid, and there's nothing you can do about it, but the added benefit of keeping him far away is he doesn't charge clear up to the door. You can see he's still, you know, a respectable distance away, which is good. The other thing you can kind of see there is with these frozen warlords, Turin's got them all gathered up, and he's slowly dragging them away from the door. You can see all the little blue balls spinning around. If you're tanking on that door, that's kind of what you have to do. You start at the door as best you can, but then you've got to kind of work your way away from it to keep the entire raid from standing in those orbs. So now it's Turin's turn. I pick up the last guy, he picks up the boss, and we're off to the bear door. And I've got a lot of vengeance here, so I'm just filling up the rage bar, trying to not pull threat. These little guys here, you can grab them, you can do your best. You can see neither of these guys is particularly angry at me because the DPS is focused on them so much, but that's okay, they die really fast. So I'm just going to go back to my happy spot here so I can pick up this warbear and try to keep him pointed away from the raid. Now the shaman are an interesting thing. You want to have aggro on them. They're not near as dangerous as the warbears because of their melee, but you want to have aggro on them so everything's grouped up because of their chain lightning they do. So here I got two warbears come out. We had a charge in the middle of the raid, so I have to pick up these two guys. Try to keep them pointed away from the raid. Everything stacked up as well as I can. There's a flame caster near the door. Not much I can do about that. Grab the Dinomancer when he comes out. Again, try to keep everything stacked up. You can see there, Shaman's kind of getting away from me, but as long as he gets interrupted and comes back, it's not a big deal. We can keep things gathered up like this, then our raid can do a really good job of burning them down. And I'll run over and poke away a little bit at those flame casters, but I've got to get the boss here shortly. So now I've got to drag him to the middle of the room here. He stops and charges twice in pretty short order here, which is kind of a pain. I think Honesty actually yelled at me for not getting him into the middle of the room here. But I'm trying. Get out a double swipe. It's easy to avoid. Makes your healers happy. Get him to the middle of the room. Sooner or later, the War God's going to drop down. That's what you're kind of watching for here. You're just going through the same rotation as you were before. War God comes down, your off-tank's got to pick him up, and you go get the War God. And we actually chain disarms here pretty good. I think Honesty gets the first one, maybe the second one as well. Then he calls out for Nomi to get one, and then you see me use one here. Win. Right now, I guess. So we kept him pretty well disarmed for the duration, and he died pretty fast. So here we are down to the final stage. You'll see me kind of sit on a full rage bar here. I could have been heroic striking or whatever, but I was nervous that Horrdon does a ton of damage, and I just wanted to be ready. If Turin did go down, I wanted to have enough rage that I could use my active mitigation and get in front of him and hold him long enough for the raid to kill him. But we didn't need it in this attempt. And we collect our purples.